Hello Rebel Divas, and welcome to my Writer's Den. Today I'm going to share with you the first chapter of my novel called Disowned. Disowned is the first novel of my Red Heeled Rebels novel series. Now what's this series about? The series is a coming-of-age, adventure, international women's thriller. That's how the people who read the book describe it. It is about spunky young women, sassy, sexy, spunky young women from around the world, Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, who go through coming-of-age stories in their own lives, but they get together and they decide that they're going to stand up and fight against the injustices that they face. Now, the first book, Disowned, starts off with the main character of the series, Asha, and she is a half Indian little girl who grew up in Africa, then is shipped off to India. She's an orphan, and then she finds that she has to flee a forced marriage, and she decides to cross oceans to flee that marriage. But what she doesn't realize is she might be walking into a trap. Now, today I'm going to read you just the first chapter, and I hope you'll enjoy that. Stay till the end and I'll share with you where you can download the prequel to the series right away for free. Okay, shall we start with a story? Chapter 1 of Disowned, the first novel of the Red Heeled Rebels novel series. Two hands yanked me out of the crumpled car. My back scraped against the mangled door, but I felt no pain. I looked around in shocked daze. Everything was a blur of smoke and crackling fire. I heard shouting nearby. The man in the Tanzanian police uniform let go of my arm and doubled over, coughing. It was a rough, gagging cough. His face was glowing, not from sweat, but from the reflection of fire. That was when I felt the heat. The grass around us, tall enough to hide a fully grown African elephant, was ablaze. The fire was climbing the acacia tree we'd hit moments earlier, its leaves curling inward in pain. I gazed in horror at our small family Fiat engulfed in flames. There was a familiar shadow inside. A darkened head collapsed forward. Another shadow leaned against the steering wheel. Now a ring of fire. Oh my God, I struggled on my feet. Get back, someone yelled behind me. Mama, Papa, I had to get them. I had to save them. But before I could do anything, the officer grabbed me by the arm and pulled me through the hot grass, half carrying, half dragging me like a rag doll. I kicked at the dirt. I struggled all the way, almost losing my precious red sandals. Let me go, let me go, I screamed. He dumped me on the asphalt and flopped down beside me, one hand holding tightly onto my shoulder because he knew where I was going to run, back into the fire, back in to see whether my parents were okay. He used the other hand to wipe his face drenched with sweat. The crackle of fire and the blaring of sirens were getting louder now. I felt hands pull me onto a stretcher. People were shouting at each other and at me. Someone was forcing me to lie down, hands on my shoulders, pinning me down. No, I struggled. Mama, Papa, we have to get them. I fought to get up. Hatari, danger, a sharp voice said from behind me. The man who had pulled me out of the car came over and reached for my hands. Wezi kwenda nyuma, he said in a soft voice, shaking his head. I didn't understand, and not because I didn't understand Swahili. But we have to go back. Mama and Papa are still there. I lunged forward. Hands clapped me down. The officer sighed and shook his head. Pole, pole, he said. I stared at him through the smoky haze. I knew enough Swahili to understand. He just said, sorry. I collapsed. My mind was foggy, heavy. This isn't happening. This is a nightmare. I'm gonna wake up soon, aren't I? But the fire was now all around us. I couldn't see our car anymore. Then the world went black. What did the police say? A female voice whispered in the dark. Tight-lipped they were, another whispered back. I overheard one of them say it was a good thing a highway patrol was on the road, or it would have been worse, much worse. Who's talking? I couldn't see a thing, but the voices kept going. How much worse could it have got? I don't know, but it sounded serious from the way they were talking. I tell you what I think, Rosa. These foreigners just don't know how to drive here, but nobody wants to say that. Tell me about it. A big sigh. Every time we go on those safari roads, I tell my husband somebody should put up signs or somebody will get killed one of these days. If we had signs for lions, do you think the tourists will stay away? They'll be following it with their fancy cameras, I tell you. Only the white Muzungus do that. Have you seen those buses full of the Chinese and the Japanese? Even the Wahindis are running around with their cameras, I tell you. Well, the good Lord was looking after this little Wahindi. She'll heal. Why don't we call that Hindu priest to come and talk to her? How do you know that's her church? Maybe she's Christian or Buddhist or Muslim. You never know these days. Well, we need someone to bless her parents. I heard this conversation, but I stopped right there. Bless her parents? I pried my eyes open and was immediately blinded by fluorescent light. I shut my eyes back quickly. Around me, chaos erupted. The girl's up! Call the doctor! I opened my eyes more cautiously this time to see two Tanzanian nurses in starched white aprons and stiff caps standing on either side of my bed. They were staring at me like I was an alien. I stared back. They couldn't have looked more different from each other. One was short and stout, the other one was thin and tall. I glanced around me. I was in a small windowless room, on a hospital bed with beeping machines all around me. On the wall in front was a wildlife calendar with a photo of a sandy-colored impala leaping over a bush, its long black horns leading the charge. I did a double take when I saw that impala. That picture reminded me of something urgent, something important. But for the life of me, I couldn't think of what it was. A shiver ran through me. This place was cold and sterile and smelled of disinfectant, like they'd scrubbed everything down with bleach. Something nipped at my arm. I looked down to see a gangly plastic tube sticking to my forearm. What's this? I pulled my arm and instantly a searing pain crushed through my body. I struggled to get out. Where am I? I spoke, but heard only a strange raspy sound. I put my hand on my throat. My back hurt. My legs felt heavy. Something somewhere was hurting badly. Tears welled up in my eyes. Now, take care, my dear, the stout nurse said, coming closer to me, coming closer to the bed and putting a hand on my shoulder. Her hand felt warm to the touch. Don't pull on these now, the tall nurse said. She was fixing the IV bag next to the bed. These are for your own good. See, you're already feeling better now, aren't you? Where's Mama? I croaked. My throat was drier than the Sahara. Relax, no talking. You need rest, the plump nurse said, pushing a button on the side of the bed to bring the bed upright. In her hand was a plastic cup with a bent straw in it. You're going to be doing just fine, she said. This will help. Drink up. I reached for the cup with shaking hands and put my lips on the straw. As they watched me silently, I took tiny sips of water. Suddenly, the black phone by the door rang, and the skinny nurse ran to pick it up and started talking to it, nodding every few seconds, saying, yes, doctor, no, doctor. The plump nurse began to bustle around the room, taking readings from the screens and writing on these special charts. I sat watching them, motionless, with the cup in my hands, trying to make sense of what happened, why I was here. Suddenly, a fiery image sprang to mind. It was the image of our small family car in flames, with the shadows of my parents inside, unconscious. My body went numb. Panic thoughts came rushing in like a sandstorm in a desert, roaring, swirling, filling every crevice of my mind. Did my parents get away? Mama, Papa, oh my God, what happened to them? I'm gonna stop there. That is the first chapter of my novel, Disowned. Disowned is the first novel of the Red Heel Rebels novel series. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you'd like to get the free prequel, it's a prequel to the entire story. It's what happens just before this accident that I shared with you. It's a small short story, but it tells you about her life in Africa, what happens, how she got to this point, and maybe even some hints to how the accident happened and some of the things that transpired before that. So download the prequel, and you should have it somewhere here. I'm always very bad at pointing at these things, but it should come on screen somewhere here. You have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week with another story.